let's start with the generations. That was meant to be like the main thing. So Pluto in Cancer, many grandparents, I don't know, even people still living today, maybe some of them are still living today, even though very old, in the 80s, 90s. With Pluto in Cancer, they're called the silent generation. The silent generation years don't correspond exactly, but I think actually we can make a correction with Pluto. People who know astrology will probably discover that the trend they're talking about and connected to the silent generation is actually the Pluto in Cancer. And it starts a little bit earlier and it ends a little bit later than what they say. So every one of those generations is obsessed about something, is also contributing something to the big picture, something unique, something new, and basically showing all the others how to do well that particular thing also. But in being so obsessed with it, they also make terrible mistakes in that direction. And they remain kind of blind about something, which is the warning part. And also, they set the trend of that time, the style, the lifestyle, the way of thinking and so on. The prejudice, if you can say so, of that time. So Cancer is the sign of the home. But the home doesn't have to be literally the house I live in or my home, but it's the closed circle, which I call my territory, my people, my family, I may not have a family, but still, where I hide from the world, retreat so that I can deal with my vulnerability and my emotions and my still weak sense of stability. A lot can be said about Cancer, but Cancer is a feminine sign, water sign. Water means emotional, feeling oriented, so exchange of feelings, exchange of emotions, and at the same time being very fearful because easily hurt, very basically about Cancer. And that can already tell us a lot about what to expect from that period. People tended to be very family oriented, and the family was also the nation, very nationalistic also, not just family. But everything tended to be very kind of closed into the shell of the family. And they were obsessed about building the perfect home or the perfect, environment in which to breed, children and so on. And there was this overall sense of responsibility among everyone. Like, I would keep literally silent and obey the family norm and to be hardworking, contributive to the family, and there was this dream about this being possible to build the perfect, safe environment. But obviously they got disillusioned over time, as every one of these generations about their topic. But this was a sensitive topic of Pluto in Cancer. They obsessed about family ties because it was also a period of time in history when they were going through the 2 world wars. This was a time when somebody was sacrificing their personal interest, personal life, to the whole, to the society, to the country, and was willing to do that. It was kind of possible to convince those young men to go to war, which only a few years after 1939 and after the Second World War was already not possible. The ones that came after them were not in the same mood, if I can say so. They didn't believe in that. They didn't believe in these ideals. You see, in the style of that time, if you look at architecture, interior design, if you look at, the clothing and things like this, there is this cuteness in it. I don't know if you've noticed, especially interior design and fashion. Those wallpapers, for example, of the 50s, of the 40s and the 50s, flowery designs, sofas looking like cupcakes, things like that. It is all like a repetition of the kitchen and home
which
thing,
is related to Cancer.
which is Cancer.
Yeah.
And this cuteness of Cancer, which is like the famous Cancer cuteness, especially if somebody has an ascendant in Cancer, even if they don't have anything else in Cancer, it gives that, and that is like a message saying, come and take care for me. Give me your care. Give me your support. Don't let me die. Don't let me, ensure my survival in the purest basic, like a little child would want a mother to take care of it. It's the motherly sign, Cancer. So people from that generation tend to be very homely. They tend to want to have guests and really take care of the guests. Cook big dinners, make those garden parties, and really be, welcoming to their own families and to their friends. It's very common with them. And the food topic. So I love you if I feed you. That's a sign of love, to take care of that part of things. It's. Did you notice anything like this with your grandparents, for example? It's that preoccupation with survival, and with food and clothing and the safe roof over our heads. To have my own house is a big thing. It's the United States is Cancer. It can be grand in its ambitions of making things even safer than they can actually be. And when you want to make something so closed, behind underneath the lid of the family and the house, what happens is, and this is the mistake and the warning here, is that this closed shell, because it's so isolated in its own, between its walls, is not that open to influences from outside. It starts breeding monsters within. So what happens is, these people that were born in that era, they became of age around the 60s and the 70s. That's when they had their families and their children. And these statistically are the times of the most child abuse, things in the family, or situations where, out of the best intentions to care for your close people, like a mother caring for her son, for example, overdoes it. That's too much. And too much care can be bad for someone, because they become not responsible, not being able to take care of themselves and so on, or they become abusive then to that same mother that took so much care. This overprotectiveness that Cancer, and people who have a lot of Cancer in them, they also tend to do that as a psychological trend, to overprotect or to over-obsess with their relations and to want too much care from others. That can be the downside of it. And in big scale things, this was a time of a lot of isolationism in the world and nationalism. People fighting or being, every country capsulating. We Americans hate the Russians, and we hate these and the other. We don't hate them that much as we don't want to be bothered with. We want to close our doors and live our way of life without opening too much, because we are presumably scared by what can come from the outside. This was the era in the United States of McCarthyism. You know what that is? When they were fearing the communists. Yeah. There were people persecuted.
Witch hunt.
People persecuted because they were allegedly related to the communists, because the whole country was made to, you were meant to fear the communists, at the time.
Black books.
Yes, everything like that. And this was like possible to happen in that time, because obviously there was a foundation of it, like a good soil for that to happen. That's marked by Pluto in Cancer. They suffered a lot, that generation. They called the silent generation because most of them were really silent. They basically took whatever happened. They all of those political trends and stuff in the world, especially the wars, unimaginable wars like in this scale before, they just went through them and were extremely traumatized. But I
also didn't want to air out their dirty laundry in public.
Exactly.
Keep it in the
you
home.
are so right about. I forgot to mention this, and this is so much part of this. That there was this saving face.
Yeah.
It's very typical for Cancer.
Saving face?
The saving face
like
trend.
Saving money?
No, to save face means to pretend that everything is so blissful and fantastic.
Yeah.
And that, I have the perfect family. We get on so well.
Yeah.
When we close the door at night, we may kill each other. And actually, that was the result of it. There was so much. Maybe was it saving face or saving grace or something like that?
Yeah,
it's pretending like my neighbors shouldn't know.
Even don't let the kids tell their friends about anything that happened
in the home.
Don't tell anything about the family.
Exactly. This is typical Cancerian hiding. Yeah, protectiveness, and this is very how is it called when you pretend to be something when you are not? It's just not only fake. Not only
typical.
So Pluto hates everything that's fake, everything that's superficial. That's not the real thing. That when you go to the bottom of it, it actually is. And what happens in every one of these generations is almost like Pluto finds a way to bring this up to the surface, and then all of this awful stuff come and get exposed. And what got exposed eventually was the dysfunction in the family later on, when these people mature. So these are the people who are the parents of our parents. So that closing of accounts and the cleaning of the dirty laundry of the Pluto in Cancer happened when our parents were dealing with their parents. And that was most of the time in Pluto in Leo. So
it's funny to say that when it went 2 degrees in Cancer, First World War, 2 degrees in Leo, Second World War. It's funny, right? So I hope I'm not here when Pluto returns to Leo.
None of us is gonna be here.
I hope so.
Well, there is no point. There is no way. It's gonna be after me.
There's probably gonna be a war or something. Who knows?
It's always
or
something.
a big conflict, but it doesn't necessarily need weapons and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe it will be a different kind of war.
Yeah. Now it's economical war. You know what I mean? But something will come.
Well, I think in every generation there is something.
Yeah.
And everyone thinks they're more stressed out than the previous ones. Everybody lives with a certain set of, and that's what this is all about. When we come to ours, we'll see how maybe we are prejudiced in certain ways. But also presumably a little bit more mature, maybe, hopefully. Maybe a little bit wiser. But only if we study what's going on. But because otherwise history repeats itself, Pluto cycles repeat themselves, but nobody really knows. They live through it as if it's for the first time. And it's the same trend, but in different events, different real events. And because the signs of the zodiac follow, like an introverted sign follows an extroverted sign, then another introverted and another extroverted, like the so-called yin and yang signs, feminine or masculine. That's why what happens is that when Pluto switches, then it's almost like a reactionary trend. Then the next one is very different, very almost like wants to show the previous ones, which I think to some extent explains why generations fight with each other. Because when you're born, especially in the next generation from your parents in Pluto, then you have this tendency to repudiate everything that they really believed in. That same thing that they obsessed about, that same thing that they really were. Some people say that Pluto is the instinct for survival in every generation that they share between themselves. And if somebody or something activates their fear, they're willing to kind of jump together and do something about that. And you see, even the worst, maybe in the Cancer period, if somebody says to you, your country is threatened, your country, hence your home, big home, is threatened, then you're willing to go and sacrifice yourself.